Let's dive into the big property tax shake-up currently being discussed in Westminster. The government is considering scrapping council tax and stamp duty, replacing them with a new, fairer system that's tied to current property values. The aim? To address wealth inequality and modernize a tax system that's still based on outdated 1990s values. These changes could impact everyone: homeowners, renters, landlords, and buyers. So it's crucial to understand exactly what's at stake. Over the next few scenes, we'll break down the current system, the proposed changes, and what they could really mean for you. First, let's quickly recap the two main property taxes: council tax and stamp duty. Council tax is based on property values from 1991, creating unfairness. Some pay more for less, while others in expensive areas pay less. Stamp duty is a one-off tax paid by buyers, often adding tens of thousands to the cost of moving and discouraging people from buying or selling. Both taxes are widely criticized. Council tax for being outdated and regressive, stamp duty for stalling the housing market. The result? A system that's confusing, unfair, and a barrier to mobility. No wonder the government wants change. Let's see what's driving this push for reform. The main reason for reform is fairness. Current taxes don't reflect today's property values or wealth distribution. Council tax bans are stuck in the past, and stamp duty discourages moving, hurting the economy. The government wants a system that taxes real, up-to-date property wealth, not just income or transactions. Economists argue that taxing property value directly is more efficient and transparent. A new system could boost the housing market, make taxes simpler, and ensure those with the most valuable homes contribute more. It's about modernizing, raising revenue, and making the system work for everyone. So, what could this new system look like? Here's the blueprint. Abolish council tax and stamp duty, two of the most controversial and outdated taxes in the UK, and replace them with a modern, fairer system. The idea is to simplify how we pay for local services and make buying and selling homes less of a financial headache. First, a local property tax, an annual charge set by councils, but crucially it's based on your home's current market value, not on old, arbitrary bands that haven't kept up with real prices. This means your tax bill would finally reflect what your property is actually worth today, making the system more accurate and up to date. To protect homeowners in high-value areas from being unfairly penalized, there'd be a cap, only taxing up to a certain property value, such as £500,000. So, if your home is worth more, you wouldn't pay extra on the value above that cap, keeping things fair for everyone. Second, a new national property tax would take the place of stamp duty, which currently adds thousands to the cost of moving. Instead, this new tax would be paid when you sell a property, making the process simpler and more predictable. This could be a straightforward, proportional tax on the value above a set threshold, or it could work like a capital gains tax, applying only to large profits from selling high-value homes. Either way, it's designed to be clearer and less punishing for ordinary buyers and sellers. The goal is simple: make annual property taxes fairer, and make moving house cheaper and less stressful for most people, especially families looking to upsize or downsize. For example, a 1% tax on the value above £500,000 would mean a much lower bill than today's stamp duty for many buyers, especially in areas where house prices have soared. The system aims to be transparent, progressive, and less of a barrier to moving. It's about making the property market work better for everyone, not just those at the top. But what would these changes actually mean for real families across the country? Let's take a closer look at how this new approach could impact everyday homeowners and buyers. Let's explore how these proposed changes could play out for very different households across the UK, and what they might mean for people in a range of circumstances. Meet Aisha, a retired homeowner living in the north of England. Her home is a modest terrace valued at £150,000, typical for her area and a reflection of her years of hard work. Under the new local property tax system, Aisha could see her annual bill drop. The tax would be based on her home's actual value, making it fairer and potentially more affordable than the current council tax, which often feels arbitrary and outdated. Now let's head south to London, where the Millers own a much pricier home, worth £700,000. Their situation is quite different. With a cap set at £500,000 for the new tax, the Millers would see their annual property tax rise, better reflecting the true value of their home. However, if they ever decide to move, the process becomes far less expensive. No more eye-watering stamp duty bills that can make moving feel impossible. For buyers, The new system means a smaller, simpler tax when purchasing a home. This could make it easier for families to move for work, school, or simply for a change of scenery. But what about the owners of truly high-value homes? Take the Patels, whose London townhouse is now worth £2 million. If they sell, a new capital gains tax could mean a hefty bill on their profit. A controversial change, especially for those who've seen their property values soar over decades. For most homeowners, these changes could mean lower annual bills, more predictable costs, and a much easier path to moving home. But for a minority with very valuable properties, it could introduce a new, substantial tax burden that they haven't faced before. The proposals are designed to balance fairness and raise much-needed revenue for local services. But as with any big change, not everyone will come out ahead. Some critics argue this is just a London tax in disguise, targeting the capital's wealthier homeowners. But is that really the case? Let's take a closer look at how these changes could impact different regions across the country. Critics say these proposals hit London and the southeast hardest, where average homes easily exceed new tax thresholds. A £500,000 threshold may sound high, but in London, it captures many ordinary homes, not just mansions. This could mean teachers or nurses in London pay more tax than owners of large country houses elsewhere. Supporters argue it's fair to tax unearned property windfalls, especially where prices have soared. Opponents see it as punishing people for living in expensive areas, not for being wealthy. The debate highlights the UK's deep regional divides and questions what counts as wealth. Is this a fair rebalancing or a new postcode lottery? Let's hear what experts and the public think. Reactions to the idea of changing property taxes are deeply divided, sparking passionate debate across the country. On city streets, in homes and online, people are voicing strong opinions about what's fair and what's risky. Supporters argue that replacing stamp duty with a new system could give the economy a much-needed boost, making it easier for people to move and buy homes. They believe it would create a fairer tax system, helping families and first-time buyers get on the property ladder. Think tanks and economists suggest that a fresh approach could unlock the housing market, encouraging more sales and making it easier for younger generations to buy their first home. They see it as a way to address long-standing issues in the property market, but critics are concerned. They warn that introducing a capital gains tax on main homes could freeze the market, especially in high-value areas like London. There's also fear that such a tax could gradually be expanded, eventually affecting more homeowners than initially promised. Many people in the North and Midlands might benefit from lower bills, but those living in expensive areas worry about losing the value they've built up over years. For some, their home is their main nest egg, and any change feels like a threat to their future security. Renters and younger people, who often feel locked out of the housing market, may welcome the changes as a step toward greater fairness. However, there's concern that landlords could pass on any new costs to tenants, making renting even more expensive. Ultimately, these proposals have sparked a national debate about wealth, fairness, and the role of property in British society. The conversation is happening everywhere, from Parliament to living rooms, reflecting just how important this issue is to people's lives. Whether or not these changes become law, one thing is clear. The way we tax our homes has become a major political issue, grabbing headlines and shaping public opinion. The future of property tax in the UK is uncertain and up for grabs. As the debate continues, everyone with a stake in housing is watching closely, so stay tuned for what happens next.